Hello, students. We continue with the chapter The Last Leaf. I am sure you remember that we have done last time, and you remember that Johnsy and Sue were two poor, struggling artists who were trying to make their living by painting. I'm sure you also remember that Johnsy fell ill with pneumonia and she had lost the will to live. And this was importantly after she saw the leaves falling from the uh, ivy vine from her window. And she kept counting the remaining leaves and felt that she would die when the last leaf fell. We also know that Sue had reported the whole thing to Behrman. He was an old man who stayed in the same building and he himself was a painter. Now, let's read the chapter ahead and find out what happens to Johnsy, whether she is able to get back to normalcy, whether she becomes healthy again, and if yes, then who helps her in doing that. Last time we had seen that when Sue told Behrman about Johnson's imagination, he was shocked that people could be foolish enough to talk all such stupid things. Now let's read ahead. She is very ill and weak, said Sue. The fever has made her mind full of fancies. This place is not good for Miss Johnsy. Some day I will paint a masterpiece and we shall all go away. Yes, said Behrman. So we can see that Sue is telling Behrman that Johnsy has become very ill and weak, and because of the weakness and because of the fever, all sorts of thoughts, imaginings are going on in her mind. And one such imagination we all know, that the ivy vine which she can see from her window, when all the leaves will fall, when the last leaf will fall, she is feeling that she will die. Now here again we can see that Behrman is voicing his desire to paint a masterpiece. I'm sure you remember from last lecture that masterpiece is an exceptionally beautiful piece of art created by a particular artist. Okay. Let's read ahead. Johnsy was sleeping when the two went upstairs. Sue showed Behrman the ivy vine that Johnsy saw through the window. They looked at each other for a moment without speaking and then began their work. Outside, a cold rain was falling continuously, mingled with snow. Sue closed the window. So here Behrman has come to serve as a model for Sue, and here Sue shows him the ivy vine, on which one last leaf had remained. They looked at it and then began their work. Outside, what was the condition? There was cold rain and it was mingled means mixed with snow. So Sue closed the window, and now let's see what happens ahead. Next morning, when Sue woke up, she found that Johnsy was staring at the closed window again with dull, wide open eyes. Open the window. I want to see, she ordered. Sue obeyed. But lo, even after the rain and the fierce wind that blew throughout the night, there yet stood against the brick wall one ivy leaf. It was the last on the vine, still dark green near its stem, but with its edges tinted with yellow. It hung bravely from a branch some 20 feet above the ground. So you see, when next morning Sue got up, she found that Johnsy was already staring at the closed window. Why do you think she was staring at the closed window? Maybe she was waiting only for Sue to get up so that she could open the window and she could see whether the last leaf had fallen. So as soon as she sees Sue has gotten up, she orders her to open the window. And what does she see outside? Oh, that last leaf is not fallen. It's still there, standing bravely. Okay. And can you describe the leaf? Yes. It was dark near its stem, and with its edges tinted with yellow. Tinted means slightly colored with yellow. But it was hanging, bravely. It hung bravely from a branch. Though it was a single leaf, it was still maintaining its ground. It refused to fall. Okay, let's see what happens ahead. It is the last one, said Johnsy. I thought it would surely fall during the night. I heard the wind. It will fall today and I shall die at the same time. Johnsy was preparing herself for the last journey that one makes alone. The feeling was very strong within her. The ties of Sue's friendship and other things on earth became loose one by one. The day wore away, but even through the twilight, they could see the lone ivy leaf clinging to its stem against the wall. At night, again the wind raged and the rain poured. So, what was the condition? See here, Johnsy is just saying again and again, now this is the last one. And actually, she had hoped that she would not get to see the leaf in the morning, but it had stood its ground. It was very much there. Now she is saying, okay, if it did not fall yesterday night, it's going to fall today. And again, she is voicing the same thing. When it will fall, I will die at the same time. So Johnsy was preparing herself for the last journey. What is the last journey? She was preparing for death. That one journey which one makes alone. That is death. That feeling that she is going to die is very much strong within her. And she is not thinking about anything else now. That thought is very much overpowering all other emotions. We have got so many ties here. We have got mother, father, friends, this, that, property. Here even Johnsy has got the ties of Sue's friendship and maybe other things, but they are becoming loose one by one, they are saying. That means she is losing the wish, she is losing the will to go on with her life. The ties with life are loosening. And the day passed even through twilight. Twilight is the time immediately after sunset, but before it becomes completely dark. During that time also she could see one ivy leaf clinging to its stem. And that night also wind raged, means wind was angry. It was blowing very, very heavily. And the rain poured. It was raining heavily. Now let's see what happens to the ivy leaf. Let's read ahead. Next day, when it was light enough, Johnsy asked Sue to open the window. The ivy leaf was still there. Now, wonder of wonders, in spite of it raining so heavily, in spite of the wind raging, the ivy leaf was still there. It was, as if it was battling something. In spite of all odds, it was still clinging to its stem. I am sure you remember that Johnsy had made up her mind that once the the last ivy leaf will fall, she would die. Now, we can see that in spite of everything happening, the ivy leaf is still there. All other leaves have fallen down, but it's there, very much there. So now, leaf being there, does it bring any change in Johnsy's attitude? Let's find out. Johnsy lay for a long time looking at it. Then she called Sue. Sue dear, she said, I have been a bad girl. Something has made a last leaf stay there to show me how wicked I was. It is a sin to want to die. After that, she was ready to take the broth and milk that Sue brought her. She wanted to sit up in bed. Someday, I hope to paint the Bay of Naples. So now we can clearly see that a change has come over Johnsy. Why has the change come over Johnsy? Because she has seen that the last leaf with which she was, connecting her life had not fallen. So now she is very hopeful and is confident that she would live. She even realized that she had been wicked earlier and it was a sin to want to die. She wanted to sit up in bed and was ready to have, the soup and the milk that her friend was giving her. So she looked forward to the future and there was hope in her, which we can see that she is saying that she wants to paint the Bay of Naples someday. So that means here now the will, the wish, the desire to live has sprang back in her. The reason is the last leaf that she has still seen on the vine. Okay. Let's read the last paragraphs. Mr. Behrman downstairs was now ill with pneumonia. The sweeper had found him lying helpless in his room in very wet clothes and shoes. He also found some scattered brushes and a palette with green and yellow colors mixed on it. 2 days later, Mr. Behrman died in a hospital. The last ivy leaf was still there on the wall. It never fluttered or moved when the wind blew. It was Behrman's masterpiece. He had painted it there that night when the last leaf had fallen. So now I'm sure students, you must have understood that the last leaf that Johnsy was able to see from the window, the leaf which was not falling in spite of there being, rain, there being wind, was not actually the real leaf. It was a leaf which was painted by Behrman, and it was so very much like the real leaf that Johnsy could not make out the difference. She felt that it was the real leaf, and that leaf painted by Behrman brought all the change in Johnsy and was the reason why the desire to live had come back to Johnsy. And what happened here to Mr. Behrman? He, because it was raining that day, I'm sorry, night, when it was raining, he had painted that leaf. And while doing this, he himself had become wet and had become down. He had become ill with pneumonia. And after 2 days, he had died in a hospital. We can come to know that he himself had painted because the sweeper found that there were some scattered brushes and a palette. I'm sure you know that a palette is something in which the artists mix the colors. Okay, so it is definite that it was Behrman who had painted the leaf. He was definitely a kind-hearted, a compassionate, a very good man at heart. That we can conclude because during night when he could have easily rested, he could have protected himself, he wanted to save a young girl. So he did not, he gave importance to Johnsy's life and not to his own life. So such kind of persons also exist in this world. That's a very heartening thing to know. He did a very wonderful thing and gave a new release of life to Johnsy. Okay, that's why this leaf never fluttered. That means it never made a shaking movement in the wind or in the rain. And that was Behrman's masterpiece. Masterpiece, why? Because it was so much like real that Johnsy did believe that it was the real leaf. Okay, so that was the story of Sue, Johnsy, Behrman, and the last leaf. Now let's do question number 2 from the English workshop. Now before doing the question number 2, I am sure, my dear students, that you know and remember that homophones are pairs of words that sound the same. Homo means same and phone means sound, but they differ in spellings and meanings. For example, SUM sum and SOME some. Okay, but there are some words which have same spelling They are spelled the same way and their pronunciation is also same, but they have different meaning. Now, such words which are having same spelling and pronunciation but different meaning in different situation and context are called as homographs. Now, our second question is based on homographs. Let's see. The first word here mentioned is interest. Now I'll tell you two sentences based on the word interest, and then I'll explain how they are different in two sentences. Interest. In first sentence of mine is, all my classmates show interest in studies. Second sentence is, today banks are paying good interest on fixed deposits. The word is same, interest. It is written in the same way and it is spelled in the same way and it is spoken also, pronounced also in the same way. But in the first sentence, all my classmates show interest in studies, here the word interest stands for feeling of wanting to know or learn more about something. Like here, having interest in studies means they are interested or to know or learn more about the studies. Second, whereas in the second sentence, today banks are paying good interest on fixed deposits. Here the word interest stands for money which is paid at a particular rate for the use of money. So I hope you have understood. The word is same, pronounced the same, but the meaning in the context is different. Let's consider one more. Well. The second word in the line is well. I am telling you two sentences based on that. In the villages, people still draw water from well. So you see here the word well means an excavation in ground by drilling or digging. The purpose is to find water. Means gadha khoda hai and the purpose is to find water. Now let's see second. Her essay was very well written. Here the word well stands for good or satisfactory. Okay. Now I hope you have understood how the homographs work. Now for the rest of the three words, left, just and mine, are homework for you. Try and find out their meanings and try and use them in different sentences. Okay. That's all for the day. Thank you.